Little Red is Missing, written by Reddit user PostalDude420 and narrated by Chadwick Polson. Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Little Red. She lived in a tiny cabin with her mother and was a baker that commonly made baked goods for neighbors or coworkers. Little Red loved her mommy and her baking, so when she was tasked with bringing her sickly grandmother some loaves of bread and a fresh pie, Little Red was overjoyed. Sadly, her mother couldn't be there to accompany Little Red, as her mother was too busy with her new boyfriend. So Little Red took it upon herself to deliver the goods to her elderly grandma. Little Red grabbed a little plastic basket that she used for picnics with her stuffed animals and toys. She was happy to find a tiny checkered cloth on the dining table that her mom used to take cakes out of the oven with, when her hands were too swollen and lacerated to properly grip onto the pan. As Little Red walked out the tiny cabin door, she adorned her iconic red hood. She loved her red hood, and it gave her a sense of relief and comfort when her mother wouldn't give her any. Little Red took a few steps outside, breathing in the cold, crisp night air. She paid no attention to the high-pitched feminine screaming that sounded kind of like her mom, and the sound of her new boyfriend grunting alongside it. An equally loud and obnoxious sound of glass penetrating flesh coming from behind her annoyed her a little as well, but she continued on her way all the same. She finally stepped into the shrubbery surrounding the woods, and with a sigh of relief, Little Red started skipping and humming a tune she heard her mother sing to her when she was little. Ah, the good old times when Red was younger and her mom seemed happier. Little Red could hear the faint sound of sirens past the tree line. It sounded like they were rushing to her and her mom's little cabin. Little Red brushed it off. Nothing to be too worried about, right? The sound of a howl startled Little Red. She stopped in her tracks and turned her tiny head around to be met with a dark wolf-like figure that engulfed Little Red's tiny body with its shadow. It stood in front of the little child, licking its lips as it considered its next prey. Little Red tilted her head, looking upon the wolf-like creature in confusion. She had never seen a creature so fascinating. Before she could react, however, the creature lunged at Little Red, causing her to leap back in fright, luckily missing the creature's gnashing teeth by a thread. Little Red clutched her little basket filled with baked goods and started running as fast as her little legs could take her. The creature's weakened speed was no match for the nimble little girl. Little Red kept running through the thick forest, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. The deep huffs coming from the wolf-like creature soon became quieter and quieter as Little Red gained ground over it. As dawn broke upon the horizon, Little Red was exhausted. She shuffled her feet along the overgrown trail that led to her sickly grandmother's house. Little Red's stomach growled as she walked along the difficult terrain, though it didn't hinder her spirits. For the sight of her grandmother and the act of giving her the sweet treats her mother so kindly made on this special occasion would be worth the effort. On the horizon now, Little Red could spot the run-down cottage belonging to her grandmother. The feeling of nostalgia and being watched overwhelmed Little Red. She started skipping through the overgrown trail, hopping over dead bushes and plants. Little Red checked inside her little basket one last time to see the still fresh pastries covered by the red checkered cloth. At last, she had arrived at her grandmother's house. Little Red knocked at the door. She heard shuffling and a panicked breath before the door squeaked open. Inside, she was met with a somewhat familiar form.
"Why, hello, dearest Red."
A sickly voice creeps from her grandmother's throat. Little Red takes in the sight of her grandmother's white nightgown, so she feels confident it's her. Little Red's grandmother's features are strangely long, however, and suspicion takes hold.
"Oh my, what a long nose you have, Grandma,"
Red says with a hint of ignorant glee in her voice.
"Better to sniff you with,"
responds Red's grandmother in a deep, gravelly tone.
Oh my, what long nails you have, Grandma!
Red chuckles at the hilarity of the situation. Her grandmother sure has grown.
Better to scratch you with.
Red's grandma says with a wide smile.
Oh my, such large teeth you have, Grandma.
Red continues. Her tone becomes worried, and then her heart drops as she stares at her supposed grandmother.
Better to eat you with.
The wolf says, ripping off the skin of Red's grandma to reveal a long, furry coat matted with blood. The wolf's frightening smile plastered on its face as it bares its sharp teeth and snarls. Red stumbles backwards in an attempt to flee, but it's too late. She can feel the searing pain of fangs digging into her shoulder. She screams bloody murder as she's ripped apart by this beast, piece by piece. Little Red cries, but her yelps and pleas for her mom are useless. They are soon replaced by bloody gargles as she chokes on her own crimson.
Good night, Red.
Are the last words Little Red Riding Hood heard before her painful demise engulfed her nimble body.